Everyone, let's get you caught up on some international news. In Myanmar, at least 116 people have died after a landslide caused the collapse of a jade mine, and that's according to Myanmar's information ministry. There are more people feared to be trapped inside the mine as search and rescue operations have been halted due to heavy rain, according to local officials. The incident took place earlier today in the jade-rich Hepant area of Kachin State. Myanmar's information ministry said 116 bodies have been recovered so far, while a local lawmaker said another 54 people are injured. He also warned that the death toll is expected to rise. Very difficult to hear about this. Many people know that jade obviously is something that most people would know is you use it for jewelry. It's been mined for many, many thousands of years, and there are different grade levels of jade. So these miners can often be digging deep, deep, deep into the layers of the earth because, of course, they want to find the highest quality of jade because that's what fetches, the most money. Now, for years they've been doing this. Miners will go underneath and use tools and whatnot. In recent years, of course, there's heavy equipment that they can use, but sometimes we're in there areas where you can't get heavy equipment in there. Men physically have to go down and actually, do it, in a manual fashion. So unfortunately,
so tight quarters,
this happens.
Tight spaces.
Yeah, think of being down layers between the earth and very small areas where they're digging and mining for jade. So so sad to hear this, of course. Jade itself is considered very precious. It is a semi-precious stone, but it has a historical, ancient sort of history behind it, that it gives off good energy. A lot of people will buy it. You'll see in Asia, particularly in China, you'll see jade used just as in little rocks placed around the home, that sort of thing. It's considered to give off really good energy and has properties that could possibly provide healing for people who get massages. Sometimes they'll use jade stones on your body, that sort of thing. So that's what was going on here when this happened, and hopefully they will not find any more people. Very difficult when you hear things like that for people who are just trying to do their job.
Yeah, horrible tragedy. Well, there has been confusion for travelers at Madrid, Spain's airport after outdated COVID-19 guidelines were given on arrival. Several passengers told CNN they were instructed to remain in isolation for at least 14 days. However, this measure expired on June 21st when the state of alarm ended. Spain's health ministry says the forms given out to passengers at the airport were outdated. And just yesterday, the European Union opened its borders to travelers arriving from 14 countries, including Australia, Canada, Japan, and South Korea. It appears as if those quarantine measures, again, outdated. Spain, by the way, one of the hardest hit countries going back to the beginning of this pandemic. 80 million visitors, by the way, head to Spain every year as tourism. You've mentioned that on the show a number of times. Tourism, such a big deal in that country, which Spain happens to be the second most visited country in the world.
Absolutely. Spain is considered one of those countries that has pretty much everything you could want. It has great weather. It has amazing beaches. That's one of the biggest things that people go there for, is their beaches. Food, rich history and culture, that sort of thing. But they did get hit very hard by the pandemic, as well as Italy. Remember back at the beginning,
yes,
we were talking about Italy, of course, and them suffering. Spain did also. But with these rules wanting people to quarantine, not only was it hard for them to keep track of that, people simply didn't want to do that. If you're on vacation, do you want to go somewhere and have to quarantine for 14 days? Very hard
that could
for
be
people.
Your entire vacation.
Yeah, that's for most people. For Americans,
Right.
in Europe it's a little bit different. But for Americans, we're taking our 2 weeks, right? So not a lot of time by the time you travel overseas or wherever. Although Americans are not allowed there right now because of COVID-19, but it's difficult for these countries who are trying to open up their economies. Also hard hit is the Caribbean. The Caribbean countries, of course, that's their their main source of income is tourism, and so they're hit hard as well. So many of these countries around the world that rely on tourists to come in, especially in these summer months, even here in America, Orlando, Florida, which of course is one of the top, it's always in the top 3 tourist destinations in the entire world. Magic Kingdom there is closed. Disney World is closed. So they're not getting all of the tourism and travel.
And with schools out and families normally taking vacations there this time of year.
Yeah, so not just Spain, but countries around the world. And if you do not have proper systems in place, as is being reported with Spain, a discrepancy in how this happens, people are going to be a little nervous about traveling there. Well, still to come, drive-through only. Find out why one of the biggest fast food restaurants in the world is deciding to keep its dining area closed. When BNC Now continues, we'll be right back. Welcome back to BNC Now. All right, one of our favorite restaurants, McDonald's, is hitting pause on its plan to reopen its dining rooms for 3 weeks as states across the country block restaurants from reopening because of rising COVID-19 cases. Several states have reversed their decisions to allow the resumption of certain indoor activities, including eating at restaurants, as coronavirus cases surge. New Jersey recently decided not to allow indoor dining at restaurants, and then New York City, they followed suit. In California, Governor Gavin Newsom instructed restaurants in several counties to halt dine-in services for at least 3 weeks. So the kids will not be able to go and run around and play inside McDonald's as many do. We just talked about Orlando, Florida, Walt Disney World. Well, McDonald's has a huge restaurant in Orlando, Florida with a giant play area so the kids can go in there and jump around, and they have video game machines and all that sort of stuff. So unfortunately, those parts of the dining room is closed, but you can always get takeout, drive-through.
You know, we actually were thinking the exact same thing. I was thinking about the kids and how unfortunate it is for them. Most McDonald's, I think, have those play
areas, sure.
And the kids don't get to enjoy that. But also, frankly, there was always a time, because I didn't get to have McDonald's very often as a kid because, I mean, we were poor, so there was not a whole lot of fast food opportunities. But when you did go there, you would have this incredible sense of fulfillment and joy when you would go in there and you'd smell the fries and all of the food cooking there, and it was enjoyable. So you don't get that feeling for right now, but of course we can all certainly understand why.
Safety first, absolutely.
Yeah, and I am curious though, because anytime you go to a McDonald's, especially at night, the shake machines are always out. So will this help in that regard?
They say that. I've never had that problem. People
Really?
do say that, but I've never had that problem, no.
You've been very lucky, yeah. I will say this too.
Because it's so popular, the machine's always down because
Yeah.
they make so many shakes.
Yeah, I will say this too. I feel good and feel happy for some of the workers there in McDonald's, because let's face it, sometimes people are nasty, filthy. Sometimes people are careless with their drinks and their food, and those people that have to clean the floors there, they don't have to worry about that. So that is one good thing that that comes out of this for the workers, and I'm happy for them that they will not have to concern themselves with picking up after others inside the restaurant. Well, some young people in Alabama are throwing COVID-19 parties. You heard that right, COVID-19 parties, where there is a disturbing competition as people who have coronavirus attend, and the first person to get infected receives a payout. That, according to local officials. The parties are taking place in Tuscaloosa, and infected people are urged to attend so others can intentionally contract the virus. The city is working on getting the word out and breaking up such parties. It also passed a mask ordinance this week that goes into effect Monday. As of today, Alabama has reported about 39,000 confirmed coronavirus cases and nearly 1,000 deaths. The Tuscaloosa, Alabama fire chief said that at first his crew thought that it was a rumor until it did some research, and he said to this point it has been difficult to track because some kids have out-of-state addresses and only go to school in Alabama, which is one of 14 states that yesterday reported a record high number of cases. So when he said that, so I thought that I had read that this was high school students taking part in this, but
College.
okay, so that makes sense because of the fire chief saying that some kids have out-of-state addresses. And I guess I was hoping that it wouldn't be college students, because these are young adults now who are making clearly just horrendous decisions. And we spoke about this earlier in terms of some people think it should be a crime if you knowingly attend functions where you have tested positive for coronavirus and infect others. So I don't know how you get a grasp on something like this, especially as the fire chief said, some of the people they believe are only there to go to school at the University of Alabama, which is in Tuscaloosa. So very difficult to get a grasp on it, harder to get a grasp on why people would knowingly do something like this.
Well, again, I think it's a part of the problem is people having mixed messages. If the message across the board was how serious this is, people would take it seriously in all age ranges. There's such mixed messages on how serious is it? Is it really serious? We were all under lockdown, but then everybody was out protesting, and people were at the beach. You can go to the beach, you can't go to the beach. Young people can't get it.
Yeah.
So much mixed messages that unfortunately some people, they really don't see it as a problem. So this, though, is beyond, purposely doing, going to a party and trying to, bet and see who gets it first to win money. Absurd.
It goes back to what we talked about earlier in the show. There should be some sort of deterrent to make sure that this is not something that is to be aspired to. Well, still ahead, one of the greatest women's basketball players of all time performs an even bigger role thanks to her work not on the court, but inside of one. Those details next on BNC Now. Maya Moore is one of the most decorated players in women's basketball history. Not only was she a unanimous All-America selection all 4 years of her college career at Connecticut, but she also won a pair of national championships there and has won 4 more titles as a player in the WNBA. Moore is also one of just 2 players in WNBA history to win the league's regular season MVP award, its finals MVP trophy, and the All-Star Game MVP. But as good as she has been on the court, she's made an even bigger impact inside one. Moore took all of last season off to focus on freeing an imprisoned man by the name of Jonathan Irons. He was serving a 50-year sentence for burglary and assault and had served 22 years of that sentence. Moore, who believed that Irons was wrongfully convicted, she and her team successfully fought for Irons' freedom, and he was released from a Missouri prison yesterday. Laverne, this woman, I don't know if I can properly state it. She is today, and she took all of last year off, and she's going to take this year off. Today, she would be considered one of the 5 best players in the WNBA, and she is sacrificing some of the prime years of her career. She's only 31 years old, and she's doing this to serve what she believes is her purpose. So Kim Kardashian is one of a number of people who get a lot of publicity for the good works that they do in terms of helping to free those who have been wrongfully convicted and imprisoned. But Maya Moore is someone who does not get near the publicity that she deserves. Again, it's hard to overstate it. She's in the prime of her career. She's one of the 5 best people in the world at doing what she does, and she decided to put that on pause so that she could help someone who was wrongfully imprisoned. The gentleman, by the way, only 40 years old. He was 22 years into a 50-year sentence, again, for burglary and assault, and was freed yesterday. And Moore was a huge reason why Jonathan Irons is now a free man. Kudos to Maya Moore, who, again, at just 31, already one of the most decorated players in women's basketball history, very likely a future Hall of Famer. Just a tremendous show of sacrifice and great work by Maya Moore and her team.
Amazing. Will she be able to go back and play and be at the top of her game, do you think?
You know, it's a great question. I wouldn't doubt her, I'll put it that way. But as we know in the world of sports, especially professional sports, as you get older, you know, your body doesn't work quite the same. Basketball is one of those sports that's very rhythmic, where you need to kind of be in some sense.
Repetition.
Yeah. Of course, you know, then you have somebody like Michael Jordan, who took a year and a half off and came back, and even he was rusty when he first came back. So it'll be interesting to see if she decides to get back into the game. Meanwhile, if the NFL season goes on as scheduled, and if somehow teams allow a certain number of fans into stadiums, if you happen to be one of them, you may be asked to sign a waiver. The Athletic is reporting that the league is considering having fans sign a waiver that would protect the league and its teams from any liability if the fans are to contract COVID-19. The waiver reportedly could be sent to teams by next week. Real quick, if you were given this choice of signing a waiver, would you do it?
All right, Anthony, you know how conservative I am. If I have to go anywhere and sign a waiver, I'm not going. That means if they're asking me to sign a waiver, they know there's danger because they don't want to be responsible for it. So no.
The NFL is saying, don't come after our billions.
Absolutely.
Yeah. All right, stay with us. Back with more BNC Now in just a moment.
Welcome back, everyone. It's time now for BNC's social media scoop. Clone High is trending on Twitter because they're making new episodes. The original 2003 MTV comedy centers on a high school populated by clones of famous historical figures like Abraham Lincoln and Mahatma Gandhi, who were part of a government experiment. On Instagram, lots of travel destinations as people post where they wish they were going this holiday weekend, but of course they're not. And YouTube, the Netflix trailer for the upcoming drama web TV series Cursed, has a couple of million views that they've gotten in just the last couple of days. So be sure to get connected with us on social media and check out the latest news and information on our website, blacknewschannel.com. And please make sure to follow us on Twitter at Black News C and Laverne McGee TV, and on Instagram at Black News Channel and Laverne McGee TV. And stay with us. We'll have more BNC Now after the break.
All right, back here on BNC Now with a couple of final news and notes. You know, all this week, Laverne and I have been your hip hop historians. So if you've missed the past couple of days,
because the hip hop postage stamp. There's,
yeah,
if you go to the post office, you can actually buy the forever stamps with the hip hop symbols on it.
And we discussed, you know, some of our preferred hip hop artists, and one of mine, Nas, one of the great storytellers. On this day in 1996.
Throwback Thursday, here we go.
Nas released It Was Written. So if you have a chance to go and look at that album cover, the first thing that will stick out to you, most likely, it did to me, was just how young Nas looks. I mean, he looks very much the same now.
He always looks young, though.
But he looked particularly young back then. So yeah, this day, 24 years ago, It Was Written was released.
Wow.
Yeah.
Haven't heard much from him lately.
Well, probably quarantining and being safe and watching his money grow.
Who knows?
Maybe.
Hopefully, yeah. Hopefully he saved that money.
Yeah. One other quick note for HBCU sports fans. No official word yet, but the SIAC, which is a Division II NCAA conference comprised of HBCUs, could cancel all fall sports.
Oh.
It was just last week that one of its schools, Morehouse, canceled its two fall sports, football and cross country. Again, no official word from the SIAC yet. The last word from them was just prior to 1 p.m. Eastern when the conference said that despite rumors that there was no truth to the reports as of yet that they would cancel fall sports, but we will keep an eye out for that.
Difficult to hear. And if you're in Texas, they just announced that everybody has to wear masks pretty much. So there you go. That's it for BNC Now. We'll be back tomorrow at 4 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Ladies First is up next. Have a great afternoon, everyone.